Good morning, folks. Doug Gardner here. I've got a lot of comments lately about the types of blinds that I use and why I use them, certain particular brands. Today I thought it'd be a good opportunity to share with you a little bit about the blinds that I use and why I use them. I'm out here today in an area where I had some blinds set up and they haven't been doing real well. So I'm going to move them and put out some different blinds in a better location. So I just thought we'd walk in here and I'd show you kind of what I've got set up and what I, with the blind I have currently out, and give you a little bit more information. This is a beautiful location. It's a beautiful cypress swamp. It's got a great little creek that goes through the area. There's the blind right here I have set up, and originally I was thinking that I'd have some white-tailed deer using this area and crossing the stream and get some good footage. I'm working on a documentary about white-tailed deer and climate change and kind of the different habitats. And this area is a floodplain off of the Pocatello Swamp, and this is the Pocatello River, and it is almost completely fed by rainwater. I mean, the levels of water fluctuate depending on the amount of rain that we get in the area and north of here. So it doesn't take but a little bit of rain, a couple of inches, and this whole area out here becomes flooded about 18 inches deep. You can actually see the wide buttresses on the cypress trees out here, which indicate that there is standing water here from time to time. So let's go over here and check out one of the blinds that I have, and we will show you what I like about certain blinds and what I dislike about them. Beautiful little sandy bottom stream. I haven't got the footage I want yet of some whitetails crossing this. The other morning I was out here, and before daylight I had two little bucks sparring in the creek, and I really wanted to get that, but I didn't because there was no light. Anyway, this is one blind that I have, and this is your inexpensive pop-up blind. Ground blind. They're manufactured for deer hunting out of, and some of the pluses are they're inexpensive, they're lightweight, they fold up fairly small, easy to set up, and we'll go around the other side. Let me get here so you can see. One of the things I dislike is the material. It's always a nylon material, and you can see with certain angles of light, you get a white sheen, which is, you pretty much have got a target on your head when you're out here. Deer comes through here, they're immediately going to see that. So that's one thing I dislike about it. Another thing I dislike is this is the door to it, this triangle right here. So let's widen out. The zipper is quite noisy, and this is the inside here. So about the door, what I dislike, for a 6'2" man, it is difficult to get into. So once you do get in here, the things that I do like about this blind that when you sit down with this see-through mesh, it's a one-way mesh camouflage net, so you're able to sit in here and 180 degrees see in every direction. You can see what's moving around you, what's coming to you, but the animal can't see you in the blind. Now, the secret to not being seen in a blind and your movements while you're in the blind is having the back of the blind blacked out. It kills your shadow, so they can't see you move. So that's one of the really nice things about this. The number one thing that kills this blind for me, from a filming aspect, is these cross members. It's really well designed. However, for filming, it's horrible. It's a deal breaker for me, because there's nowhere to really get the lens out of the blind that you can turn any significant direction. So what I have to do on these kind of blinds is I actually have to take a knife and cut the corner open, because this is the largest area that does not have a brace in it. I have to cut this open, then it wants to sag down. I put the lens out, and I'm able to turn at least about 80 degrees right and left, which still is very restrictive to being able to move around. Also, now that I've got this big gap here, which I could cover it with camo material, but that's another thing I have to fight. It shows up from outside the blind. It shows up as a big black hole, and black and white are key things that animals key on. They key on contrast. Contrast stands out to the eye faster than anything else. That and different types of pattern designs. So this is some of the things I don't like about it. Also, I have to cut the bottom of the blind in order to get my third tripod leg out of the blind, so that I can move the tripod far enough forward that the lens will actually get outside of the blind. So those are the things that make this a no-go for video. I put it up here because it was kind of a quick thing. I needed somewhere to sit, and my other blinds were out in other locations. So, but I've decided, after sitting here for about 40 hours over a 5-day period, I just have not seen enough activity to warrant keeping this blind in here and actually staying in this particular location. Now, it's been great for raccoons and otters. Otters swim up and down this stream constantly, but that's not really what I'm going after. If I get to the point that I need otter footage and raccoon footage, then I will come back here, reset a different blind, and specifically set up for that, and maybe even get down, put the blind in the shallow creek, so that I can be eye level to otters as they're swimming up and down or catching fish or that kind of thing. The other thing too is being down low to the water. The raccoons always hunt and fish along the edge of the water, so they're low to the water as well. So you always want to be eye level to your subject, or as close to eye level as you can. You don't want to shoot down on them. That's the last thing you want to do. But anyway, so that is this blind in a nutshell. What things I like about it, things I dislike. I'm going to show you. We're going to go to another location that I'm going to reset up at. I'm going to put another blind out that I had custom built years ago, and it works for both photography as well as video cameras. Now, one thing I will say, in this particular blind, if you're just shooting photographs, and especially if you're hand holding your camera and you don't need a tripod, this is an excellent option for you, because you can, ease your camera out of this hole, any of the small holes that are already designed in this, like this little zipper window here, you can get the camera out pretty easy and pretty quietly. But for video, the equipment is so big, so heavy, so cumbersome that it's impossible to pull it out and move it to another window. By that time, you've made all kind of noise and movement, and your subject's gone. So for video, this is a no-go. For still photography, it's great. And it's a cheap option. I say cheap, everything's relative, right? So this blind, I think this is the Wee Tide, I think is the name of it. This is kind of the new design. Everybody's going to this X brace type blind because it pops up pretty easy, and it's pretty roomy. It's actually very roomy. And they run, you can get them as cheap as $100 and as expensive as $250, I think. So I think this one came off of Amazon for around $120. So anyway, let's go, and I'll tear this blind down and we will move to another location. Okay guys, we've moved to a new location, about a mile downstream from where I was before. Same swamp, and trying to find a good location to put out a blind. I'm gonna show y'all kind of what I look for and what are the determining factors of where I'm gonna put a blind. So let me put this blind down. All right. So again, this is all this is a big bald cypress swamp. It's got some tupelo gum in it, and then up on the ridge behind me, there's a nice oak ridge. Lots of oak trees. I noticed coming in there were tons and tons of acorns, which is a great sign because white-tailed deer love to eat on acorns, among other things. But that's a really good food source. So that puts me kind of in a good area. Food, cover, water are the keys to finding a good location. So anyway, this is what we got. I'll turn the camera around and show you. Again, the swamp is dry right now. We hadn't had any rainfall for a few weeks, but normally all of this is covered in about 18 inches to 2 feet of water. As a matter of fact, if you come up here, you can see the water line. Usually it's right there is the water line. So this is actually really good because some of the things I'm trying to film the effects of climate change on white-tailed deer and their habitat. And this is one of their prime habitats. So one of the things that we've been noticing is bigger swings and I guess swings of extremes in weather patterns. So we'll get more flooding for a longer period of time in the spring and in the late summer generally. And then we'll also go for periods, longer periods of time of extended drought, wildfires, that kind of thing. So you get an area like this with you can hear the crunchy leaves, all this fuel on the ground. Wildfire will come through here and kind of make a mess of things and completely change the habitat. So as you can see, it's really a beautiful place. Now I'm here in the middle of the day, so the light's harsh and it's not as pretty as the video doesn't do it justice. But anyway, let me show you what we're looking for now. So when I come into a new area, I'm trying to set up a shooting area. Again, some of the things I'm looking for is food, water, shelter. We've already established there's plenty of food in here. There's plenty of water because the stream that you just saw me on actually comes right down here beside, not even 100 yards from where the blind is. So they got plenty of water. And then obviously there's plenty of cover in this thick swamp. So now I want to look for signs that'll show me kind of the direction of movement. So for the sake of time and providing a long video, I've gone ahead and kind of walked this area. And basically what you do is you kind of walk a whole circle around this area and you look at all the different angles. And you're looking at camera angles, where, open areas that you can see the most amount of property from. Also, you're looking for a sign of where the deer are walking, any other sign of deer behavior. So we're in the middle of the rut right now, so we should be able to find some scrapes, some rubs, just tracks. If they're using one particular path to traverse through the swamp to a feeding area, there should be some well-worn trails. So I will show you some of the signs that I just found. So like most animals, deer like to travel the path of least resistance. The easier travel is for any animal. That's the least amount of effort they have to put out. So when you're an animal trying to find food, you always want to save as much energy as possible. So you're going to travel the easiest route. And so as I was looking around through here, you can see it's kind of a natural corridor. See how thick everything else is? If you look around here, this kind of got my attention, this natural corridor that goes through here. And as I started walking and looking, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there's a pretty worn path right here. And it goes right on through. I mean, they've almost got it muddy right here. And it goes all the way up through here. I'm just gonna see it right here. Lots of tracks. And then it kind of goes up, but it also splits off and goes this way. So let's see what's over here. There's a lot of tracks. With the leaves, it's very difficult to see all the tracks, but this is really eating up the tracks. Tracks here. Tracks are getting really heavy. Right in here. And then you get here and it's pretty obvious. Lots of tracks. All this little bottom, it looks like it's been holding water. So there's a lot of tracks in here. So this is pretty good. There's an old tram road here. You can see how it's elevated. Also, it's much greener up there than anywhere else. And these tram roads, you'll find them in a lot of swamps. Many years ago, a lot of these swamps were logged, much like this one, back in the 40s and 50s, I think it was. Anyway, these tram roads are built so heavy equipment can actually get on dry ground and go through to access areas to cut. So now that they don't use those anymore, a lot of these tram roads have breaks cut in them, like this area right here. You see there's a big break, and it starts back over here. That way the swamp is allowed to flow naturally, and everything kind of reverts back to its natural state. So with that said, it looks like, based on the tracks I'm seeing and these trails, it looks like they're following these tram roads throughout the swamp, and then where there's a break in the tram road, they're getting off and kind of fanning out in both directions of the swamp. So this is almost like a convergence area, which is a great thing. And if I can set up a good blind location right here, I think we'll have much better success than we did before. The other thing too is all the tracks are kind of going in the direction of this oak ridge that I was telling you about, where there's all the acorns at. So it's a food source up there. All right, well, let's pop up a blind. Today I'm actually putting up my favorite blind. It's a blind that I had custom built years ago, based on all the things that I find wrong with other blinds, and things I kind of wish I had in a blind. And so there's a guy up in Michigan, I don't remember his name, but the name of his business is Lucky'sHuntingBlinds.com, and he custom builds anything and everything you want. Now it's a little pricey, but I've got everything in a blind that I actually want. So I'm gonna pop up a blind in this general area so I can see these tram roads. I can see all the open area in front of me. I have a maximum amount of open areas to actually see the deer kind of traversing through the swamp. So I'm gonna pop up a blind, then I'll show you all about it. Blind. Now I'm not done setting it up yet. This is just it in its raw form. I will brush it in and get everything tweaked on it, but just kind of doing a walk around. The design is based on, I guess the structure, the inside structure of the design is based on Leonard Rue's old design. He called it the Rue blind, and he had a really great design, and to be honest with you, nobody has really beaten that design over the years. He was kind of, if you don't know who Leonard Rue was, he's the godfather of nature photography. I think unfortunately he passed away a few years ago. But anyway, so it's based on his blind, and I just modified it to make it more suitable for what I do. So if we come in close, number one, I use a heavy matte finish Cordura material. This kind of helps with some insulation in the wintertime. It's thick enough and heavy enough that it doesn't flap in the wind. And I also like the camo pattern. There's a lot of gray in it, kind of with a little bit of blotchy green. It's not your traditional camouflage pattern, but for me, I think once you brush it in, it looks a lot better out here. You see, you got a lot of trees that are various shades of gray, like this, and then these trees out here are a little bit lighter gray, and so it varies from light to dark. So the changes I made on the outside of the blind, first and foremost, I've got these tabs all the way around the top. I can tie strings to, anchor it down if I'm in a windy situation. It helps hold it in place. And then, so this window right here is for video camera. So the nice thing about this whole window is Velcro all the way around, and I can close it completely up, or I can just open various parts of it. So generally what I do is I leave the top open like this as a window to see out of. And then I have a little piece of camo net, like this stuff right here, that goes on the inside so I can see through, but the animal can't see me moving. And then the bottom, I can change the size of this opening. I can make it as wide as I want or close it down. So that way I can have the camera lens sticking out right here and seal this up all the way around it. So that works real well. For photography purposes, let me get my shadow out. If you wanted to do still photography, it's got a nice snoot made out of a very soft material that doesn't move and rustle when you move the lens around. This bungee cord cinches down around the end of the lens so you can move quietly and they can't see your hands moving. When I'm not using it, I just tuck it in. All the way around the top, right at eye level when I'm sitting in the chair, I have these windows. These one-way mesh windows, which can be completely closed up from the inside and blacked out. And I don't know if you can see in here, but all the material has black backing to it, black waterproof backing. So the blind is 100% waterproof. If I get in a heavy downpour, I don't get wet. But the black back, like I was telling you earlier, kills your shadow movement. So if the animal does see you through here, they can't see your shadow moving against the background. Whereas if you had backlight coming through, they would easily be able to see any little movements you make. So if we come on around, also I have these little strings sewn into the material, and they're everywhere. They're all over it. So what we use to do this is we'll take brush, and I'm just using the stick for an example. You lay it on top here, and you just tie it on, and it easily ties and unties. And that way all your brush is now strapped to the blind. It doesn't fall over, and that works really well. So let me open it up and show you the inside. All right, so I have a vertical zipper, comes from the bottom all the way to the top. And because it's on a pivoting point up here, the blind can open all the way up, and I can just walk right in. I don't have to crouch down to my knees to get in the blind. So this is what the inside looks like. Again, these flaps go up, and I can seal off the whole inside of the blind completely. Can seal the front off completely with Velcro, and accessory pockets all throughout so that I can put, batteries, whatever, snacks, whatever I need to keep without putting them on the ground. And then on every side of the blind, there is a Velcro strip right here. And I don't know if I can do this one-handed. Anyway, you get the point. You open this Velcro, and the flap comes open, and you can put a tripod leg completely out, allowing you to get the camera right up to the edge of the blind. That's one of the big problems with other blinds. The other thing is that if I want to shoot ground level, I can now open these flaps, put the camera on the ground, and shoot ground level to my subject. So that is it in a nutshell. That's a little bit about the blind. And again, this is designed by me, but I had Lucky's huntingblinds.com make it for me, and I'll give you a link in the description to his business. This is my favorite blind out of everything I've ever built, and I've built lots of blinds. So this one seems to work pretty good for me. Another thing, when you are setting up blinds, especially in a heavily forested area like this, and you're trying to maximize the coverage, so you can see as much as you can possibly see from one location. Again, when you're in the blind, it's very, very hard to move a tripod, to move a camera to the other side of the blind. So you want to be able to swing as far as you can actually swing and actually have open shooting lanes. So as you stand here, before you put the blind up, just take your time, walk the whole area, and kind of look back towards the area you think the animal is going to be traveling, and look for those openings that you can get the most amount of clear shooting lanes. Now, one key thing, don't put your blind right up on top of where they're going to be moving through. I've decided to move off about 50 yards because the shot that I don't want solely tight shots of white-tailed deer. What I'm more interested in is the wider shots and mid shots of deer moving through their environment, which is the big cypress swamp. And so I want to see the cypress knees on the ground. I want to see the buttresses of the cypress trees. In some instances, I'm gonna widen out, get the canopy and all that kind of good stuff. So I don't want to be right on top of them. If you're right on top of where they normally travel, they're going to bust you. Their nose, their eyes, and their hearing is unbelievable. And you know, if you bust them, or they bust you rather, then you might as well pack everything else and go home. And every time you do bust them, they get educated, and so they know tomorrow when you come back in here, we had a negative experience when we came through here earlier, so we're gonna go a different route. So don't always crowd the animal. Give it plenty of room to act natural, and if by doing that, you'll actually have a lot more success. So now I'm gonna go ahead and brush in the blind, finish everything up, and check my shooting lanes, and get this ready to go. And then I'm gonna let it sit for about a week. I'm not gonna come in here for a week, let the animals get used to it, let them get used to new smells, that kind of thing, and we'll see what happens. Okay, once you think you've got it brushed in, so that the blind itself is not obvious. And believe me, you would think a camouflage material blind would be enough, but it's not. Just imagine a car in the parking lot. If you've got a big parking lot with only a few cars in it, and you park a yellow car in the middle of it, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. However, if you've got lots of cars around it, it blends right in and you hardly even notice the yellow. So same with the blinds. It's not enough just to have a blind. When you're dealing with animals that have good sense of smell and hearing and great eyesight, it's just not enough. So when you get finished with your blind, back up and take a look at it and see if it kind of blends in. Now, we got a lot of green here. Within a few days, this is all going to start dying and wilting, and it should look like the rest of this area. And we still have a little bit of green in the background up on the higher ground, so I think it'll blend pretty good. The key thing, though, to check to see what it looks like from a deer, don't look at it from 6 feet 2 inches high. Kneel down and see what it looks like. So that looks pretty darn good. Now for the ultimate test, let's back up to the area we think the deer are actually going to walk in on and see what it looks like to them from a distance. Okay, so I've backed up about 40 or 50 yards, and I'm on the trail where I think they're going to come in, and there's the blind right back there. So yeah, I think it's going to work pretty good, especially in a few days when things start to wilt. It's going to blend right in. This video has gotten a lot longer than I anticipated. I keep coming up with things that I remember at the last minute that can make all the difference in the world. So as I was walking back up to the blind, you'll notice that you're probably going, well, Doug, why did you put vegetation on the blind? We get that, but why did you put vegetation all out here around it, away from the blind? Again, going back to the example I gave you with the yellow car in the parking lot. So if I just had a blind just sitting up here, no matter how much vegetation, if I completely covered it so you couldn't even see the blind, that lump of vegetation is going to stick out different than these areas back in here. So this vegetation, all this vegetation came from this surrounding area. So all of this is naturally here. The deer are naturally accustomed to seeing it. So I brought some vegetation and stuck it out kind of around it to kind of help the whole thing blend into the scene. That way it looks more natural. All right, so we only have a couple more things we need to do. Okay, one of the most critical things that I do when I'm setting up for a new location is the best piece of equipment that I have. It is a small, inexpensive trail camera. It's used for hunting and a variety of other things. And I've set it up right here on the game trail. It comes right through this swamp back toward my blind right there. And so the benefit of the trail camera is to give you information all the time. Even when you're not in the blind, you know exactly what's going on. The trail cameras that I use are Moultrie trail cameras. I've had every trail camera that's manufactured, and I just get so much better service and reliability out of the Moultries. The one great thing is that when you have a technical problem with a camera, and you will have technical problems with these cameras from time to time, they aren't 100% perfect. There's a lot going on in this little box. You can call Moultrie, and their customer service is just unbelievable. I mean, it's a good old boy in the Midwest that gets on the phone with you, and he's like, "What can I help you with?" And by the time you get off the phone, they've either solved your problem or you've got a new camera on the way. They're just great people, and their products are really good. This is the Moultrie Edge. This is the newest one out. I've had, like I say, every model I believe they've ever had. But the key point to this is, if you're going to go with these, the technology has gotten so much smaller and so much cheaper now that it's really kind of a no-brainer. These are like 89 bucks, and they're cellular. So you want the one with the antenna, and what it allows you to do is when it detects motion, it takes a picture or video, and then it sends it directly to your phone instantly. So you know right then what's going on 24/7. When I'm not in the blind, I got notifications turned on my phone. I hear a little chime, open my phone. Oh, there's raccoons there. Oh, there's a bear there. Oh, there's deer there. Whatever. Oh, somebody's stealing my camera or my blind, and that does happen. That's another reason that I use these things. The thing about the cellular cameras, let's say it does get stolen, and that does happen from time to time. It's got a GPS tracker built into it. So even if they steal it, they walk up, it sends a picture, the picture's already sent to your phone. So it doesn't matter if they destroy the camera or steal it or whatever, you've already got a picture of them. And hopefully you can identify them from that. The other thing is, they cannot turn off the GPS tracker on the inside of the camera without completely destroying the camera. So if they're trying to disable it so it can't be tracked back to them, they've got to destroy the camera, so it's not going to be good to them anyway. So anyway, very inexpensive for what they do. It has just been a great tool for what I do. I have multiple cameras out all over the place, all over the United States, as a matter of fact. And you have to buy a service plan, and they're really cheap. It ranges from $5 a month to, I think, $29 a month for the unlimited package. So really no reason to do it. But anyway, this will tell me for the next week, I'm gonna let this area sit. I'm not gonna come back in here. Let the deer get used to the blind and the area. See if I can get some pictures of what's moving, how they're moving, when they're moving. And then we'll come back and see what happens. But I got one more thing I want to show you. And back over at the blind. So you hear me walking through these fall leaves, very, very noisy. And if you're coming into the blind early in the morning in the dark, you're making a lot of racket. I don't care how quiet you try to be. These crunchy leaves are terrible. And unless you got a good rain to soften up the leaves, you're gonna wake everything in the forest up, and they're gonna know you're coming a mile away. So what I do is I actually take a rake and I rake a path to my blind. Now in this situation, I've got a few hundred yards to go, so it's gonna take me a while to rake all this. It doesn't have to be a big path, only big enough for you to walk in silently. As you hear, I'm actually walking pretty quiet right now. So just listen. That's a lot quieter than this. So this is kind of what it looks like. And I just make me a nice quiet path to slip in here right up to the back of the blind. I also take the rake and I rake out all the leaves and stuff on the inside of the blind, because when you're sitting in there and you need to move around or something's in front of you, you need to reposition a little bit, your feet aren't rustling leaves. All right, guys, well, that's all I've got for today. Sorry the video went so long. Sorry it's so kind of ghetto looking, shaky I'm just doing this on the iPhone. I was out here messing around, putting up, moving a blind, and I said, you know what? People have been asking about this, so I'm gonna put a little video out. So here you go. I appreciate all your support, and we're gonna let this rest a few days and we'll come back in. And if I get some good video from this setup, I'll be glad to share it with you. All right, have a great day. This video has gotten a lot longer than I anticipated. I keep coming up with things that I remember at the last minute that can make all the difference in the world. So as I was walking back up to the blind, you'll notice that you're probably going, well, Doug, why did you put vegetation on the blind? We get that, but why did you put vegetation all out here around it, away from the blind? Again, going back to the example I gave you with the yellow car in the parking lot. So if I just had a blind just sitting up here, no matter how much vegetation, if I completely covered it so you couldn't even see the blind, that lump of vegetation is going to stick out different than these areas back in here. So this vegetation, all this vegetation came from the surrounding area. So all of this is naturally here. The deer are naturally accustomed to seeing it. So I brought some vegetation and stuck it out kind of around it to kind of help the whole thing blend into the scene. That way it looks more natural. All right, so we only have a couple more things we need to do.